A lot of sisters and brothers in religious life are also trained spiritual directors. Most of the sisters here in the convent have training as spiritual directors. Well, what is spiritual direction? It's an ancient tradition in most faiths, not just the Christian faith, where someone walks alongside you on your spiritual journey and helps you to grow spiritually. In the Christian tradition, we help people to grow into a closer relationship with God. Whenever I meet with people the first time for spiritual direction, I'll say to them, I'm sort of like a marriage counselor, and the relationship that I'm working on is between you and God. And we do the same things that a marriage counselor would do. We find ways for you to spend more time with God, for you to show appreciation to God, to gratitude and appreciation, and to feel the love between you and God. The same things you would do if you were trying to grow closer to a person. You'd spend more time with them. You would express your gratitude and love towards them, and you would work on the relationship constantly. Our life should be a progression to where we get closer and closer to God every step of the way. There are a lot of training programs for Christian spiritual direction in other faiths. A lot of our sisters were trained at General Seminary in New York City. There's also a program at Fordham University in New York where one of our sisters was trained. And I was trained, unusually, at the One Spirit Interfaith Seminary in New York City. And it's a place where you can study alongside people who are Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, all different faiths. And you learn from each other's faith traditions, prayer practices, meditations, insights into growing closer to the divine, and meditations on compassion and mercy and things like that. We had a lot of really great speakers in our program. I can't possibly recommend it enough. It's also a wonderful place where I learned nonviolent communication. I learned a lot about Sangha, about community, which is a Buddhist practice, and serving one another, things that we also do, of course, in our religious community, but to put a name to it and to make practices that are intentional towards building a loving community really helps me with my faith. It helps me in community here with my sisters. So that's what spiritual direction is. We usually, sisters and brothers, don't charge money for our services for spiritual direction. It's not like psychological counseling. It's not like a practice where you have goal setting and you have to meet once a week. Usually people meet with their spiritual director once a month or at intervals that they feel are comfortable for them. We don't put it into any sort of category of you have to meet at this regular frequency. And it sort of follows whatever the person who's seeking spiritual direction needs. There's no cookie cutter thing that we apply to every person. We look at your unique ways of connecting with God. And we don't charge for our services. We invite people to donate to the community if they feel like they want to. Our sessions are usually between 45 minutes and an hour. We're not allowed to have dual relationships with our directees. Like you can't be spiritual director to your best friend or your boss or the priest at the church where you're serving. That's a dual relationship. It's a conflict. And in our community, unfortunately, during the pandemic, the demand for spiritual direction almost quadrupled. So we had so many people coming to us for spiritual direction that I'm now having to refer them out to other people that I know who do this practice. So it's a world right now that is very much in need of spiritual direction. People have a lot of questions, big questions. People are really struggling with loneliness, isolation. They're looking for meaning in their lives. And spiritual direction can help with that. Like I said, it's not like therapy where you're working on your emotional things and you're healing your trauma from your childhood. That's a different category. Spiritual direction is a practice where you are intentionally trying to grow closer to God and to draw strength from God and to progress towards a higher plane of spiritual knowledge.